The suitcase had been sitting in the clinic's parking lot for 3 hours before anyone heard the scratching from inside. What Dr. Sarah Chen found when she opened it would lead her into a nightmare she never saw coming and force her to trust an animal that shouldn't exist. Before we start, make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe. Drop your country name in the comments. I love seeing how far our stories travel. The morning rain tapped against the metal roof of Portland Animal Clinic like impatient fingers. Sarah Chen unlocked the front door at exactly 6 in the morning, just as she had every day for the past 2 years. The smell of antiseptic hung in the air, mixing with the faint scent of wet asphalt drifting in from outside. She flicked the lights on. Fluorescent bulbs buzzed to life overhead. Her coffee maker gurgled in the small break room. Sarah set her bag down on the desk in her office. A framed photograph sat beside her computer. Daniel smiled back at her, his arm around a golden retriever they'd treated years ago. She touched the frame briefly, then pulled her hand away. She hadn't felt complete since the fire. Work filled the hours. That was enough. The clinic was quiet this early. Sarah preferred it that way. No barking, no crying pet owners, no emergencies. Just her and the silence. She pulled on her white coat and checked the appointment schedule. 2 routine checkups, 1 vaccine appointment, a nail trim for a nervous terrier. Nothing urgent, nothing that required her to feel anything beyond professional competence. Sarah walked through the exam rooms, checking supplies. Everything in its place. Sterile, organized, controlled. She ran her fingers along the metal examination table, cold beneath her touch, the way she preferred things now. At 7:30, her receptionist Jenna arrived, shaking rain from her umbrella. "Morning, Dr. Chen." "Morning." Jenna hung her coat and glanced out the window. "Weird, there's a suitcase in the parking lot." Sarah didn't look up from her inventory checklist. Probably someone forgot it. "It's been there since I drove past earlier, around 6:30. Call the non-emergency line if it's still there this afternoon." Sarah returned to her office. She pulled up patient files on her computer, reviewing notes from previous visits. The first appointment wasn't until 9. She had time to prepare, time to reinforce the walls she'd built around herself since Daniel died. He'd been the one who connected with the animals, who laughed and played and loved without hesitation. Sarah had always been the clinical one. Now she was just empty. The morning passed in predictable rhythm. Mrs. Patterson brought in her tabby cat for vaccines. The cat hissed. Sarah administered the shots with steady hands, no wasted movement, no unnecessary touching. She handed Mrs. Patterson the discharge papers and moved to the next room. At 9:47, Jenna knocked on the exam room door. "Dr. Chen, that suitcase is still out there, and I think I heard something." Sarah paused, syringe in hand. "Heard what?" "Scratching, like something's inside." Sarah finished the injection and removed her gloves. She walked to the front window. Rain had stopped, leaving puddles reflecting gray sky. The suitcase sat near the dumpster, black and ordinary, except it wasn't ordinary. Not if something was inside. She checked the security camera footage on Jenna's computer, rewound to 6:23 that morning. A black van pulled into the lot, door opened, someone tossed the suitcase out, and the van sped away. No license plate visible. Too dark, too fast. "Call the police," Sarah said. "Already did. They said they'd send someone when available. Non-emergency response time is 2 to 3 hours. Sarah looked at the suitcase again. Scratching sounds were faint but distinct now that she listened. Something alive was in there. Something suffering. She grabbed bolt cutters from the supply closet. Jenna's eyes widened. "Should you wait for the police? Whatever's in there might not have 3 hours." Sarah stepped outside. Dampness clung to the air. Her shoes splashed through puddles as she approached the suitcase. The scratching grew louder, desperate. She knelt beside it, hands trembling slightly. The locks were cheap, designed to keep contents secure during travel, not to withstand force. She positioned the bolt cutters. Metal crunched. The first lock broke free. The smell hit her first. Urine, fear, blood. Sarah's stomach tightened. She broke the second lock and lifted the lid slowly. A Siberian Husky puppy stared back at her. He was curled impossibly small, body trembling so hard she could see it. His white and silver coat was matted with filth, ribs pressed against skin. Paws were bleeding from scratching the metal interior. But his eyes, Those eyes locked onto Sarah with an intensity that made her breath catch. One blue, one brown. Those eyes weren't begging, they were calculating. Sarah reached toward him slowly. The puppy didn't flinch, didn't whimper. He just watched, evaluated, waited. She noticed the suitcase interior then. Ventilation holes had been drilled through the lining, small, precise holes. But the edges were torn outward, not inward, as if something inside had clawed through reinforced fabric. That was impossible. No puppy could do that. "Hey there," Sarah whispered. "You're safe now." The husky tilted his head, still silent, still watching. She'd sworn after Daniel died, no attachments, no more pain. Losing him had torn something fundamental from her chest. She couldn't survive that again. Every animal she treated now was just a patient, not a life she let herself care about. She built those walls carefully, deliberately. But something about this puppy stopped her. Maybe it was the way he watched her, like he was waiting for her to make the right choice. Maybe it was the scars she could already see on his paw pads, deliberate cuts that spoke of intentional cruelty. Maybe it was just that she recognized the look in his eyes, the look of someone who'd lost everything and was still fighting. The puppy extended one paw slowly through the opening, placed it gently on her hand. His paw pads were rough, scarred, warm despite everything. Something unspoken passed between them. "All right," Sarah said quietly. "Let's get you inside." She lifted him carefully. He was lighter than he should be, dehydrated and starved. But he didn't struggle, didn't make a sound. He simply let her carry him, those mismatched eyes never leaving her face. Inside, Jenna gasped. "Oh my God, is he okay? Get me fluids, electrolyte solution, and a warming blanket, now." Sarah carried the puppy to exam room 3. She set him gently on the table. He didn't move, didn't explore. He sat precisely in the corner, back against the wall, eyes on the door. Military position. Some distant part of her brain registered, like he was guarding an exit. She reached for the microchip scanner. Before her hand touched the device, the husky lifted his left leg. Sarah froze. She hadn't asked, hadn't given any command, but he knew exactly what she needed. "This wasn't a stray," she whispered. "This was training no shelter could provide." Sarah ran the scanner along the puppy's neck. The device beeped. A code appeared on the small screen. PSK9047, Ghost. She stared at the display. Not a standard pet microchip format. This was something else entirely. She pulled up the registry database on her tablet, entered the code. The screen flickered, then displayed a message in red text. "Restricted access. Federal inquiry required." Federal. Not state animal control. Not a local shelter. Federal. Jenna appeared with the warming blanket and supplies. "What does it say?" "Something I don't understand yet." Sarah wrapped the blanket around the husky. He accepted it without resistance, though his eyes never stopped tracking every movement in the room. She inserted an IV catheter with practiced precision. The puppy didn't even flinch when the needle pierced skin. Most dogs his age would yelp or pull away. This one simply watched the procedure like he'd experienced it 100 times before. "Let's get you cleaned up," Sarah said softly. She carried him to the bathing station in the back. Warm water filled the steel tub. Steam rose into the air. Sarah tested the temperature, then lowered the husky in slowly. The water turned gray almost immediately, dirt and dried blood swirling down the drain. As she worked shampoo through his coat, her fingers found more scars. Circular marks around his neck, barely visible beneath the fur. Burns. Shock collar burns. And not from one collar. Multiple types, different patterns. Someone had used various devices on him. Testing, training, punishing. "Oh God," Sarah whispered, "who did this to you?" The husky turned his head, those mismatched eyes meeting hers. In that moment, she saw something she'd never seen in an 8-month-old puppy. Intelligence. Not the simple cleverness of a pet learning tricks. This was something deeper, strategic, almost human in its awareness. She rinsed him carefully, checking for other injuries. More scars crossed his flanks, deliberate cuts, surgical precision. These weren't wounds from abuse. They were methodical, clinical, like someone had been studying him. Sarah dried him with a towel. His silver-white coat emerged clean, marked only by the scars that told stories she couldn't yet read. She noticed his build then. Muscle definition that shouldn't exist in a puppy this young. His legs were proportioned oddly, slightly longer than standard husky anatomy. Built for speed and power. "You're not just trained," she murmured. "You're designed." She carried him back to her office, set him down on the dog bed she kept in the corner. A bed that hadn't been used since Daniel died. The husky circled once, twice, then settled. But he didn't curl up like normal dogs. He positioned himself facing the door. Body angled so he could see both the entrance and the window simultaneously. Defensive positioning. Tactical awareness. Sarah sat at her desk and pulled up search engines. She typed the microchip code. Nothing. She searched for federal canine programs, military dog registries, classified pet projects. Pages of results appeared, but nothing matched the code format. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Portland Animal Clinic. Dr. Chen speaking. "Dr. Chen. This is Officer Williams with Animal Control. We received a report about an abandoned animal. Yes, I found a husky puppy in a suitcase. He's dehydrated and malnourished but stable. We'll send someone to collect him within the hour." Sarah glanced at the husky. He was watching her, head tilted slightly. "Actually, I'd like to foster him temporarily. He needs medical monitoring." Silence on the line. Then, "What did you say the breed was?" "Siberian Husky, white and silver coat, heterochromia, around 8 months old." More silence, too long. "Officer Williams, I'll need to transfer you. Please hold." The line clicked. Elevator music played for 30 seconds. Then a different voice came on, male, deeper, official in a way that made Sarah's pulse quicken. "Dr. Chen, this is Lieutenant Morrison with the Canine Recovery Unit. You've scanned the animal's microchip?" "Yes, it came back restricted." "What's the code?" Sarah read it carefully. "PS K9047 Ghost." She heard typing on the other end. Then a sharp intake of breath. "Dr. Chen, I need you to listen very carefully. Keep that animal secured in a locked room. Do not let anyone near him. Do not take him anywhere public. We're sending a team to your location." "What's going on?" "That's classified information. Keep him contained. We'll be there within 2 hours." The line went dead. Sarah stared at her phone. Her hands were shaking. She looked at the husky. He hadn't moved, but his ears were pinned back now, alert, tense. "They're coming for you," she said quietly. "Aren't they?" The puppy stood slowly, walked to her desk, placed his head on her knee. The first affectionate gesture he'd made. Sarah's hand moved automatically, stroking the soft fur between his ears. He leaned into the touch, eyes closing briefly. Then his eyes snapped open. His head whipped toward the window. A low growl rumbled from his chest, deeper than any sound an 8-month-old puppy should produce. Sarah turned. Nothing visible outside. Just the parking lot, the dumpster, the street beyond. But the husky's body had gone rigid, every muscle coiled, his lips pulled back, revealing teeth that seemed sharper than they should be. Longer. Wrong. "What do you hear?" Sarah whispered. A black van pulled into the parking lot. The same van from the security footage. It stopped near the entrance. 2 men got out, both wearing dark clothing. One pointed at the clinic door, the other nodded. They started walking toward the entrance. The husky's growl intensified. He moved between Sarah and the door, body low, ready. This wasn't the defensive posture of a scared animal. This was preparation, strategy. Sarah's heart hammered. She grabbed her phone, dialed 911. The men were at the door now. One tried the handle, locked. He pulled something from his pocket. Metal glinted. Lockpicks. 911, what's your emergency? Someone's breaking into my clinic. Portland Animal Clinic on Foster Avenue. 2 men. Black van. They have tools. Officers are being dispatched. Stay on the line. The door handle rattled. The husky didn't bark. Didn't make noise that would alert them to his presence. He just waited, muscles trembling with controlled tension. Sarah heard sirens in the distance. The men outside heard them too. They looked at each other, then ran back to the van. Tires squealed as they sped away. The husky relaxed slightly, but didn't leave his position between Sarah and the door. Police arrived 3 minutes later. Sarah explained what happened, showed them the security footage. The officers took notes, promised to increase patrols. They asked about the dog. Sarah said she was fostering him temporarily. Didn't mention the federal call. Didn't mention the microchip code. Something told her that information needed to stay private. After the police left, Sarah locked every door and window. She turned to the Husky. He was sitting calmly now, watching her with those impossible eyes. "You knew they were coming," she said. "Before I saw them, before I heard anything, you knew." The puppy tilted his head, blinked once. Sarah knelt in front of him. "What are you?" Sarah closed the clinic early. She couldn't risk staying with those men still out there. The Husky walked calmly beside her to the car, no leash needed. He jumped into the passenger seat and sat perfectly still, eyes scanning the parking lot like a trained guard. The drive to her house took 15 minutes. Ghost. She'd started calling him that in her mind, never moved. Just watched the road, the mirrors, the passing cars. Vigilant in a way that made her chest tight. Her house was small, a cottage Daniel had loved for its garden and wraparound porch. Sarah hadn't changed anything since he died. Couldn't bear to. She unlocked the front door, and Ghost entered first, immediately checking every corner of the living room, the four sitting by the couch. "Make yourself at home," Sarah said quietly. She'd brought animals home before, years ago when Daniel was alive. But that was different. Those were temporary fosters, pets waiting for forever homes. This felt different. Ghost wasn't waiting for anything. He was here, and somehow Sarah knew he'd chosen to be. She prepared dinner, chicken and rice, easy on his damaged stomach. Ghost ate slowly, methodically, never taking his eyes off the front door. After eating, he drank water, then returned to his position. Always watching, always ready. Sarah tried to work on paperwork, but couldn't focus. Her mind kept returning to the microchip code, the federal call, the men in the van. At 8:30, she gave up and took Ghost outside to the backyard. He explored the perimeter immediately, marked specific spots, tested the fence with his nose, checking for weak points. When he finished his inspection, he returned to Sarah and sat at her feet. "You've done this before," she said. "Security checks, perimeter sweeps." Ghost looked up at her, blinked slowly. That night, Sarah made a bed for him in the living room. Soft blankets, a pillow from the guest room. Ghost sniffed it, then looked toward the stairs leading to her bedroom. "You want to sleep upstairs?" He walked to the stairs and waited. Sarah felt something crack inside her chest. The walls she'd built so carefully. She hadn't let an animal in her bedroom since Daniel died. Couldn't handle the intimacy of it, the reminder of everything she'd lost. But Ghost wasn't asking. He was waiting, patient, certain. "All right," she whispered. "Come on." He followed her upstairs. Sarah changed into pajamas, while Ghost sat by the window, watching the street below. She climbed into bed. Ghost remained at the window for another 10 minutes, then quietly jumped onto the bed. He settled at the foot, positioning himself between Sarah and the door. Protection. Even in sleep, he was protecting her. Sarah woke at 3:17 in the morning. Ghost was standing on the bed, ears forward, staring at her phone on the nightstand. She reached for it, confused. Before her fingers touched the screen, it rang. The clinic's emergency line. Sarah's blood turned cold. She answered. "Dr. Chen." "Dr. Chen, this is Safeguard Security. Your clinic alarm has been triggered. Motion detected in the surgical wing. Police have been notified. I'm on my way." She dressed quickly, hands shaking. Ghost waited by the bedroom door, completely calm, like he'd known this would happen, like he'd been waiting for it. The drive back to the clinic felt endless. Police were already there when she arrived, lights flashing red and blue against the building's walls. An officer met her at the entrance. "Dr. Chen?" The back door was forced open. Someone was inside. Sarah's stomach dropped. She followed the officer through her clinic. Surgical supplies were scattered across the floor. Her computer monitor was smashed, glass glittering under fluorescent lights. Files had been pulled from cabinets and thrown everywhere, but nothing was stolen. This wasn't robbery. This was searching. Ghost pulled toward the back examination room. Sarah followed, the officer close behind. The door was ajar. Inside, more destruction. Cabinets opened, contents dumped. But on the exam table sat something that made Sarah's breath stop. A syringe gun, professional grade, the kind used for darting large animals. Next to it, a vial labeled in precise print. Sedative, canine, 50 milligrams. "They were going to take him," Sarah whispered. The officer frowned. "Take who?" "The dog I found. They came for him. Ghost sniffed the air, then moved to the corner. He scratched at the baseboard. The officer knelt, shining his flashlight. Something metallic glinted in the gap. A tablet, small, black, expensive-looking. The officer bagged it as evidence. We'll need to take this to the station. Have our tech guys look at it. But Sarah saw the screen light up briefly as he moved it. Saw rows of text, numbers, dates, shipping manifests, customs forms, livestock transportation codes. Her mind raced. Whoever broke in had dropped this, left evidence behind in their hurry to escape. Ghost pressed against her leg, warm, solid. Real. 2 hours later, after reports were filed and officers left, Sarah sat alone in her destroyed clinic with Ghost at her feet. Dawn light crept through the windows. She pulled out her personal laptop and searched again. This time, she added new terms: military dog breeding, federal canine genetics, classified canine programs. One result caught her attention: a deleted article, archived on an obscure forum. The headline read, "Miracle Dog Dies Saving Child from Avalanche." Sarah clicked. The article loaded slowly. A photograph appeared. A white Siberian Husky with heterochromia, one blue eye and one brown, standing beside a search and rescue team in snow-covered mountains. The dog's name was Kira. Sarah read frantically. Kira had been legendary in search and rescue. 8 years of service. 23 confirmed saves. Her final mission was 11 months ago in the Cascade Mountains. An avalanche trapped hikers. Kira located 6 people. Pulled a child from collapsing snow. Then she went back in. The snowpack was unstable. Everyone screamed for her to stop. She didn't. She pulled one more person free. The avalanche buried her. They recovered her body 3 days later. The article mentioned one more detail, buried in the final paragraph. Kira had been 8 months pregnant. Emergency C-section was performed in the field. 3 puppies survived. Their whereabouts were classified. Sarah looked at Ghost. He was staring at the laptop screen, at Kira's photograph. His ears were forward. His tail, which rarely moved, twitched once. "That's your mother," Sarah breathed. Ghost approached the laptop slowly, placed one paw on the keyboard, directly on Kira's image. A sound escaped his throat. Not a whine, something deeper. Recognition, grief, memory. Sarah's hands trembled as she searched for more. Found a video. Shaky footage from someone's phone. Kira pulling the child from snow. Turning back, despite her handler screaming. The moment the avalanche hit, silence, then chaos. The video description included a comment from the handler. "Kira was the best partner I ever had. Her pups were born heroes. I pray they're safe somewhere." Posted by user M Hall Canine Unit. Sarah screenshot everything. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number again. She answered cautiously. "Dr. Chen, this is Lieutenant Morrison. We spoke earlier. I remember. Our team was delayed. We'll arrive tomorrow morning at 8. Keep the animal secure until then. His name is Ghost, and he was stolen, wasn't he?" Silence. Then, "That information is classified. He's Kira's puppy, one of 3. I found the article." More silence. Finally, Morrison sighed. "Yes, Ghost is one of Kira's offspring. He was in federal custody until 5 months ago." What happened 5 months ago? There was a breach. 3 puppies were stolen from our facility. We recovered 2. Ghost remained missing. Why would anyone steal military puppies? Dr. Chen, these aren't ordinary animals. Kira was part of a specialized breeding program. Her offspring have abilities that make them extremely valuable to certain buyers. What kind of abilities? That's classified. Our team will explain everything tomorrow. Until then, stay alert. The people who took Ghost will try again. The line went dead. Sarah couldn't sleep. She sat in her living room with Ghost beside her, laptop balanced on her knees. The Poishao light hadn't yet touched the horizon. 3:47 in the morning. Her mind wouldn't stop racing. She pulled up everything she'd saved. The article about Kira. The video of the avalanche. The handler's comment. M Hall K9 Unit. That had to be Marcus Hall. She searched the name with K9 Unit and Portland. Results flooded the screen. Detective Marcus Hall. Portland Police K9 Division. Decorated officer. 17 years of service. His partner, Kira, died in the line of duty 11 months prior during a mountain rescue operation. There was a photo. Marcus in uniform, kneeling beside Kira. Both looked directly at the camera. Professional, proud. The bond between them was visible, even through a photograph. Ghost moved closer, resting his chin on Sarah's leg, his eyes fixed on Kira's image. That same sound rumbled in his chest. Not quite a whine, deeper, sadder. "She was brave," Sarah whispered, "just like you." Her phone buzzed. Text message from unknown number. "Stop looking. Return the dog. Last warning." Sarah's hands went cold. She checked the locks on every door. All secure. Ghost was already standing, positioned between her and the front entrance. His body language had shifted entirely. No longer calm. "Ready." Another text. "We know where you live." Sarah dialed 911. While it rang, she grabbed Ghost's collar, prepared to run upstairs. But Ghost pulled away from her grip. He moved to the front window, peering through the curtains. 911. "What's your emergency?" "Someone's threatening me. They know my address. I need police." "What's your location?" Sarah gave her address. The dispatcher promised units were coming, but they'd take time. Sarah moved away from the windows. Ghost following closely. She went to the kitchen, grabbed a knife from the drawer. Her heart hammered so hard she felt dizzy. Headlights appeared on the street. A car slowed near her house. Sarah's breath caught, but the car kept moving, turning at the corner. Not them, not yet. Police arrived 8 minutes later. 2 officers checked the perimeter, while a third took Sarah's statement inside. She showed them the texts. They documented everything, but said without direct threat language, there wasn't much they could do beyond increased patrols. After they left, Sarah sat on her couch with Ghost pressed against her side. Dawn finally broke, pale light filtering through curtains. She hadn't slept in 24 hours. Exhaustion pulled at her, but fear kept her alert. At 7:30, she made coffee, fed Ghost, tried to think clearly. Lieutenant Morrison's team would arrive at 8. Maybe they'd have answers. Maybe they could stop whoever was hunting Ghost. Her doorbell rang at exactly 8 o'clock. Ghost didn't bark. He moved to the door, sniffed beneath it, then sat, calm. Sarah checked the peephole. A man in his early 40s stood on her porch. Dark hair, graying at the temples. He wore civilian clothes, but stood with military posture. Behind him, a woman in a suit held a briefcase. Sarah opened the door slowly, chain still attached. "Dr. Chen, I'm Detective Marcus Hall. This is Captain Elizabeth Rodriguez from the Department of Defense." Sarah's breath caught. Marcus Hall, Kira's handler. She unlatched the chain and opened the door fully. Marcus's eyes went immediately to Ghost. His expression shifted. Shock, recognition, grief, joy, all at once. "That's him," Marcus said quietly. "That's Kira's pup. I'd know those eyes anywhere." Ghost approached Marcus slowly, sniffed his extended hand. Then did something Sarah had never seen him do. He leaned against Marcus's leg and closed his eyes. Trust, complete trust. Marcus knelt, running his hands over Ghost's head, his back, checking him like he'd done it 1,000 times. "You've got her markings. Same coat pattern, same stance." His voice cracked. "Your mom was the best partner I ever had." Rodriguez cleared her throat. "May we come in?" Sarah stepped aside. They entered, Marcus reluctant to stop touching Ghost. They sat in the living room. Rodriguez opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. Official documents, photographs, forms with redacted sections. "Dr. Chen, what we're about to tell you is classified," Rodriguez began. "But given the circumstances, you need to understand what you're dealing with." Sarah sat forward. "I'm listening." Kira wasn't just a search and rescue dog. She was part of a program called Project Sentinel, a genetics initiative started 15 years ago. Genetics? Selective breeding over 12 generations. The goal was to create canines with enhanced physical and cognitive abilities. Not genetic modification. Natural selection, accelerated and controlled. Rodriguez pulled out a photograph. Kira in a training facility, performing what looked like an obstacle course. But the obstacles were impossible. Walls too high, gaps too wide, yet Kira cleared them easily. "Enhanced how?" Sarah asked. "Increased bone density, denser muscle fiber, heightened sensory perception, problem-solving abilities that exceed normal canine intelligence." Rodriguez looked at Ghost. "Kira was our most successful result. 8 years of active service, 23 confirmed saves. She could detect avalanche survivors under 15 feet of snow, could anticipate environmental dangers before they happened." Marcus spoke, his hands still resting on Ghost's head. "She knew that avalanche was coming. I saw it in her eyes. She went back anyway because she knew someone was still buried. That's who she was." "The puppies," Sarah said. "Ghost and his siblings, they inherited these traits?" "All 3 showed advanced development from birth," Rodriguez confirmed. Higher muscle mass, faster neural responses. By 3 months, they were performing tasks that should take a year to learn. Why were they stolen? Rodriguez's expression hardened. Because dogs like Ghost are worth millions on the black market. Foreign militaries, private security firms, even criminal organizations. They'd pay anything for animals with these capabilities. 5 months ago, our facility was breached, Marcus added. 3 men, heavily armed. They killed a guard, took all 3 pups. We recovered 2 within a week, intercepted during an illegal shipment to Eastern Europe. But Ghost was already gone, Sarah finished. Sold to someone else. We believe so, until you found him yesterday. Sarah looked at Ghost. He sat calmly between her and Marcus, eyes alert but peaceful. The suitcase. Someone abandoned him. Why? Rodriguez pulled out another document. We issued federal alerts after the theft, increased customs inspections, border checks. Whoever bought Ghost probably panicked. Couldn't move him without risk, so they dumped him. They dropped him at my clinic specifically, Sarah said. That wasn't random. Marcus and Rodriguez exchanged glances. What makes you say that? The break-in last night, the men who tried to take him. They knew exactly where to look. They came prepared with sedatives, specialized equipment. Sarah pulled out her phone, showed them the threatening texts. They're still hunting him. Rodriguez's jaw tightened. May I see those? Sarah handed over her phone. Rodriguez photographed the messages, then made a call. She spoke in low tones, technical language Sarah didn't fully understand. When she hung up, her expression was grim. We're tracing those numbers now. But Dr. Chen, you're in danger. These people won't stop. Then take Ghost somewhere safe, Sarah said. The words hurt to speak. She'd known him less than 2 days, but the thought of losing him felt like losing Daniel all over again. Marcus looked at Ghost, then at Sarah. There's a problem. Project Sentinel is being decommissioned. Too many security risks after the breach. The facility where Ghost would go is closing next month. So where does he go? That's why we're here, Rodriguez said, carefully. We need to assess whether Ghost can be placed in civilian custody, with someone who understands what he is and can keep him safe. Sarah's heart jumped. You mean me? You're a veterinarian. You have the medical knowledge to care for him. And frankly, Ghost has already chosen you. That matters with dogs like him. They bond intensely and permanently. Marcus smiled sadly. Kira was like that. Once she chose you, that was it. Looks like her son inherited that too. Ghost moved closer to Sarah, pressing against her leg. She ran her fingers through his fur, feeling the scars beneath, the evidence of everything he'd survived. But first, Rodriguez continued, we need to eliminate the threat. Find whoever's hunting him and shut them down. How? The tablet recovered from your clinic. Our tech team cracked the encryption this morning. Rodriguez pulled out printed pages, shipping manifests, auction listings, communication logs. Ghost wasn't the only animal being trafficked. There's an entire network. Sarah scanned the documents. Names, dates, locations. One entry made her stop cold. Specimen PS047. Auction scheduled tonight, 9 p.m. Location, Warehouse District, Portland. Current bid, $3.2 million. They're selling him, Sarah whispered. Tonight. Marcus leaned forward. They still think they can get him, which means they'll come for him again. Rodriguez closed the folder. We're setting up a task force. Federal agents, local police. Canine units. We'll be ready. What about Sarah? Marcus asked. She can't stay here. Not with these people knowing where she lives. Safe house, Rodriguez said. We'll move her and Ghost within the hour. Sarah looked at Ghost. His mismatched eyes stared back at her. One blue, one brown. Kira's eyes. In them, she saw everything. The mother who'd sacrificed herself. The handler who'd loved her. The puppy who'd survived hell and chosen Sarah anyway. I'm not hiding, Sarah said quietly. If they want Ghost, they'll have to go through me. Rodriguez wanted to argue, but Marcus held up his hand. She's right. Ghost won't cooperate if we separate them. Kira was the same way. She worked best with her handler. Dr. Chen isn't a handler, Rodriguez said firmly. No, Marcus replied. But Ghost thinks she is. Look at him. Ghost sat pressed against Sarah's leg, one paw resting on her foot. His body language was clear. Where she went, he went. No negotiation. Rodriguez sighed. Fine. But you follow our protocol exactly, no deviations. They spent the next hour planning. Federal agents would establish surveillance around the warehouse. Marcus would coordinate with canine units. Sarah and Ghost would remain at a safe location until the operation concluded. Rodriguez made it clear. This wasn't negotiable. By noon, Sarah was in an unmarked vehicle with Ghost, driving to a hotel on the outskirts of Portland. 2 agents accompanied them. The hotel was plain. Forgettable. Perfect for hiding. The room was on the 3rd floor. Small, but clean. Sarah sat on the bed while Ghost explored every corner, checking windows and doors. Satisfied, he returned to her side and settled on the floor. "You've done this before," Sarah murmured. "Different rooms, different handlers, always watching." Ghost's ear twitched. Sarah tried to rest, couldn't. Her mind kept returning to the auction listing. $3.2 million. Someone valued Ghost that much, valued what he could do, what he represented, not as a living being, but as a commodity. Her phone buzzed. Text from Marcus. Tech team found more on the tablet. Leader of the trafficking ring is Vincent Crane, former military contractor. Dishonorable discharge 8 years ago. Multiple warrants. Dangerous. Sarah typed back. Why does he want Ghost specifically? Marcus's response came quickly. Ghost is the last of Kira's bloodline. The other 2 pups were recovered and placed with retired handlers. Ghost completes the set. Crane can't fulfill his contracts without him. Contracts. Sarah's stomach turned. Ghost wasn't just being sold once. He was being sold into a life of exploitation. Training. Fighting. Breeding. Whatever the buyer wanted. She looked down at him. He was watching her with those impossibly intelligent eyes. "They're not getting you," she whispered. Afternoon dragged into evening. Sarah ordered food, but couldn't eat. Ghost ate mechanically, his attention never leaving the door. At 7:30, Rodriguez called. "We're in position. Warehouse is under surveillance. Crane's people are setting up inside. We've identified at least 6 hostiles, possibly more. When do you move in?" 9:15, after the auction starts. "We need Crane present to make arrests stick. And Ghost stays with you, protected. That's the plan." The call ended. Sarah paced the small room. Ghost tracked her movements, patient but alert. Outside the window, darkness settled over the city. Lights flickered on across the skyline. At 8:43, Ghost stood abruptly. His ears swiveled toward the door. Body went rigid. Sarah froze. "What is it?" A low growl rumbled from Ghost's chest. Not the warning growl from before. This was deeper, primal. Fear spiked through Sarah's veins. Someone knocked on the door. Sarah didn't move. The knock came again, harder. "Dr. Chen?" A man's voice. Not one she recognized. "We know you're in there. Open the door." Ghost positioned himself between Sarah and the door. His lips pulled back, revealing those sharp canines. Every muscle in his body coiled tight. "How did they find us?" Sarah breathed. She grabbed her phone, dialed Rodriguez. No answer. Tried Marcus. Voicemail. Panic clawed at her throat. The door handle rattled. Someone was picking the lock. Sarah looked around frantically. One window, 3 stories up. No fire escape. The bathroom had a small window, but too small for her to fit through. They were trapped. Ghost's growl intensified. The lock clicked. The door swung open. 2 men entered. Both wore dark tactical gear. One held a tranquilizer gun. The other carried zip ties and a muzzle. They weren't here to kill. They were here to take. "Easy now," the first man said. "Nobody needs to get hurt." Ghost didn't move. Didn't attack. He waited. Calculated. Sarah could see his mind working behind those eyes. "The dog comes with us," the second man said. "You can walk away, or we make this difficult." Sarah's voice shook. "You're not taking him." The first man raised the tranquilizer gun. "Your choice." Ghost launched forward, but not at the men. He darted between them, out the open door, into the hallway. The men spun, confused. Sarah seized the moment and ran after Ghost. She heard shouting behind her, heavy footsteps pounding. Ghost was already at the stairwell. He waited for her, then bolted down the stairs. Sarah followed, her heart hammering. 3 flights, 2, 1. They burst into the lobby. A third man stood by the front entrance. He saw them and reached for something under his jacket. Ghost didn't hesitate. He charged, not to attack, but to block. The man stumbled backward through the glass doors. Sarah ran past, Ghost at her heels. Outside in the parking lot, she spotted the unmarked vehicle. The two agents who'd driven them were slumped in the front seats, unconscious or worse. No, 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 Sarah gasped. A black van screeched around the corner. The same van from the clinic. It stopped directly in front of Sarah, blocking her path. The side door slid open. Vincent Crane stepped out. He was tall, muscular, with cold eyes that assessed Sarah and Ghost like merchandise. "Dr. Chen, you've caused considerable trouble." Sarah backed away. Ghost pressed against her leg, growling continuously. "That animal belongs to me," Crane said calmly. "I paid for him. He's mine. He's not property. Everything's property if the price is right." Crane pulled out a small device, pressed a button. A high-pitched frequency pierced the air. Ghost yelped and collapsed, his body convulsed, legs kicking. Sarah dropped to her knees beside him. "Stop it, you're hurting him." "Ultrasonic trainer," Crane explained. "Causes intense pain, but no permanent damage. One of many tools used on him during conditioning." He pressed the button again. The sound stopped. Ghost lay panting, trembling. Sarah cradled Ghost's head in her lap. Tears burned her eyes. "Please, don't do this." Crane gestured. The two men from the hotel room appeared, breathing hard. "Secure them both. We're behind schedule." One man grabbed Sarah's arm. She struggled, but he was too strong. The other approached Ghost with the muzzle. Ghost tried to stand, legs shaking. He snapped weakly at the man's hand, but missed. Suddenly, sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Crane's expression hardened. "Move, now." The man holding Sarah dragged her toward the van. Ghost lurched to his feet, stumbled, then found his balance. He threw himself at the man's leg, teeth sinking into fabric and flesh. The man screamed and released Sarah. "Run!" Marcus's voice cut through the chaos. He appeared from behind a parked car, weapon drawn. "Sarah, run!" Police vehicles flooded the parking lot. Officers poured out, weapons raised. "On the ground, all of you." Crane cursed and dove back into the van. His driver floored it, tires screaming. The van clipped a police car and kept going, disappearing into traffic. The two men on the ground were swarmed by officers, forced down, handcuffed. Marcus reached Sarah and Ghost, holstering his weapon. "Are you hurt?" Sarah couldn't speak. She just held Ghost, feeling his rapid heartbeat against her chest. Marcus knelt beside them. "It's okay, you're safe now." But Sarah shook her head. "Crane got away, he'll try again." "Not if we get him first." Marcus helped her stand. "Rodriguez traced his communications. We know where the warehouse is. We know he'll be there tonight. He has to be. The buyers are waiting." Sarah looked down at Ghost. He was watching her, eyes exhausted but determined. He used a device, made Ghost collapse. Marcus's jaw tightened. "Ultrasonic." "Ultrasonic. Illegal for a reason. That's how they controlled him before. Can they use it again?" "Not if we stop them first." Marcus pulled out his phone, showed Sarah a map. Red dots clustered around a warehouse near the port. Every entrance covered. Snipers on rooftops. The moment Crane shows his face, we take him down. Sarah's hands wouldn't stop shaking. Ghost pressed closer, offering what comfort he could despite his own pain. Rodriguez's vehicle pulled up. She jumped out, face tight with fury. "How did they find this location?" "Leak," Marcus said grimly. "Has to be. Someone told them where we moved Sarah." Rodriguez's expression went dark. "I'll find out who. But right now, we proceed with the operation. Crane thinks he's still in control. We'll use that." She looked at Sarah. "I'm sorry. I promised you'd be safe." "Just promise me you'll stop him," Sarah said quietly. "Stop all of them." "I will." Rodriguez wanted Sarah nowhere near the warehouse. But Marcus made the argument that changed everything. "Ghost won't cooperate with anyone else. You saw what happened at the hotel. He protects her. We can use that." "Use a civilian as bait?" Rodriguez shook her head. "Absolutely not. Not bait. Insurance. If something goes wrong, Ghost responds to Sarah. He trusts her. That could be the difference between success and disaster." Sarah spoke before Rodriguez could refuse again. "I'm going. You can argue, or you can make sure I'm protected. Your choice." Rodriguez stared at her for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Full tactical gear. You stay behind our perimeter at all times. One wrong move and we pull you out." By 8:30, they were in position. The warehouse loomed against the night sky, corrugated metal walls streaked with rust. Dim light glowed from high windows. Sarah wore a bulletproof vest that felt heavy and foreign. Ghost sat beside her in the back of an unmarked surveillance van, wearing a tracking collar that Marcus had secured carefully. "This collar has a camera," Marcus explained, adjusting the strap. We'll see what he sees. It also has a locator beacon. If anything happens, we find him. Ghost tolerated the collar but kept his eyes on Sarah. She stroked his head, feeling the softness of his fur beneath her fingers. You don't have to do this, she whispered. Ghost leaned into her touch. His choice was clear. Rodriguez's voice crackled through the radio. All units in position. We have visual on 6 hostiles inside. 2 at the entrance, 4 in the main space. No sign of Crane yet. Marcus checked his watch. Auction starts at 9. He'll show. The minutes crawled. Sarah's pulse hammered in her ears. Ghost remained calm, his breathing steady. How many times had he done this? Waited in the dark, preparing for violence. At 8:53, a convoy of vehicles approached. 3 SUVs, windows tinted. They parked near the warehouse entrance. Men in expensive suits emerged. The buyers. We've got movement, Rodriguez reported. Buyers entering the building. Wait for my signal. More waiting. Sarah's hands were slick with sweat. Ghost suddenly stood, ears forward. Something had changed. A black van pulled up. The same van from the hotel. Vincent Crane stepped out, followed by 4 armed men. He moved with confidence, like a man who believed he controlled everything. Target acquired, Rodriguez said. All units stand by. Crane entered the warehouse. Through the camera on Ghost's collar, Sarah could see grainy footage on the monitor. Marcus had synced it to the van's display. The interior was mostly empty, except for metal cages along one wall. 2 cages held dogs, Huskies, Ghost siblings. Sarah's breath caught. They're alive. Barely, Marcus said grimly. Look at them. Both dogs were thin, eyes dull. They didn't react to the activity around them. Broken. Whatever Ghost had endured, they'd suffered worse. Crane moved to the center of the space, spoke to the buyers in a language Sarah didn't recognize. One of the buyers gestured at the cages. Crane nodded and pulled out a tablet, showed images, demonstrations of what the dogs could do. We need to move now, Marcus said into his radio, before the transaction completes. Rodriguez's response was firm, not yet. We need the exchange on camera, documented proof. One of the buyers approached Ghost siblings' cages, inspected them like livestock, shook his head, said something sharp. Crane's expression tightened. The buyer was refusing them. They weren't good enough. The buyer pointed at Crane's tablet. At a specific image, Ghost's image. Crane spoke rapidly, gestured. The buyer shook his head again and turned to leave. The other buyers followed. They're walking, Marcus said. The deal's falling apart. Crane pulled out his phone, made a call, shouted into it. Then he looked directly at one of his men and gave an order. The man nodded and left through a side exit. Where's he going? Sarah asked. Marcus's eyes widened. He's coming here. Crane knows we're watching. He's sending someone to take Ghost directly. Rodriguez's voice cut through. All units move in. Now, now, now. The warehouse doors burst open. Federal agents swarmed inside, weapons raised, shouting commands. The buyers scattered. Crane's men reached for their weapons. Gunfire erupted. Sarah flinched. Ghost didn't. He watched the monitor calmly, like he'd expected this. Marcus was already moving, opening the van door. Stay here. Do not leave this vehicle. He ran toward the warehouse. Sarah watched through the windshield as chaos unfolded. Officers tackled Crane's men. The buyers were forced to the ground. But Crane himself was running, heading for the back exit. The side door of the van suddenly opened. The man Crane had sent stood there, tranquilizer gun raised. Don't move. Ghost exploded into action. He launched at the man's arm, jaws clamping down. The tranquilizer gun fired, dart embedding in the van's ceiling. The man screamed, trying to shake Ghost off. Ghost held firm, growling ferociously. Sarah grabbed the first thing she could reach, a metal clipboard. She swung it hard, connecting with the man's temple. He staggered, lost his grip on the gun. Ghost released and backed towards Sarah, placing himself between her and the threat. The man fumbled for something at his belt, the ultrasonic device. He raised it, finger on the button. Sarah didn't think. She threw herself forward, knocking the device from his hand. It skittered across the pavement. The man lunged for it. Ghost was faster. He grabbed the device in his jaws and crushed it. Plastic cracked. Circuitry sparked. The man backed away, hands raised. Easy, easy. Officers appeared, weapons drawn. They forced the man down, cuffed him. Marcus ran to the van, breathing hard. You okay? Sarah nodded, unable to speak. Ghost returned to her side, tail wagging slightly. The first time she'd seen it wag. Inside the warehouse, the situation was contained. All of Crane's men were in custody. The buyers were being questioned, but Crane himself had vanished through the back exit. He can't have gone far, Rodriguez said, frustration evident. Perimeter was secured. Marcus checked the monitor, showing Ghost's camera feed. Then he looked at Ghost. Can you track him? Ghost's ears perked up. His mother was a tracker, Marcus said to Sarah. Best I ever worked with. If Ghost has half her ability. Sarah knelt in front of Ghost. Can you find him? Find Crane? Ghost stared at her. Then he moved to the warehouse entrance, nose to the ground. He caught a scent and pulled forward. Marcus grabbed a leash from the van, clipped it to Ghost's collar. Let him work, Marcus said. Ghost led them around the warehouse perimeter, past dumpsters, through puddles of oil-slicked water. His nose never left the ground. He moved with purpose, no hesitation. After 50 yards, he stopped at a chain-link fence. A section had been cut away. Fresh cuts. Ghost pushed through. Sarah and Marcus followed, 3 other officers close behind. On the other side was a maze of shipping containers, thousands of them, stacked in rows that created narrow corridors. Ghost navigated confidently. Left, right, straight. Sarah lost track of the turns, but Ghost knew exactly where he was going. They emerged into a small clearing between container stacks. Crane stood there, cornered. He held a gun pointed at Ghost. Stay back, he snarled. That dog is mine. I've invested too much to lose him now. Marcus raised his weapon. Drop it, Crane. It's over. It's over when I say it's over. Crane's finger tightened on the trigger. Ghost didn't attack. He sat calmly, eyes locked on Crane, waiting. You can't shoot all of us before we take you down, Marcus said. Drop the weapon. Crane's hand shook. His eyes darted between the officers, calculating odds. Finding no escape, he lowered the gun slowly, placed it on the ground, raised his hands. Officers moved in immediately, securing him. Marcus kept his weapon trained on Crane until he was cuffed and searched. Vincent Crane, you're under arrest. T for kidnapping, trafficking, murder of a federal officer, and about 20 other charges I'll enjoy listing. Crane looked at Ghost one last time. He's worth more than all of you combined. You have no idea what he can do. I know exactly what he can do, Marcus said quietly. He's his mother's son, and she was worth more than you'll ever understand. Crane was led away. Sarah dropped to her knees, exhaustion finally hitting her. Ghost pressed against her. Warm and solid and alive. You did it, she whispered. You found him. Ghost licked her hand once. Brief, efficient. Then returned to watching the officers secure the scene. Rodriguez approached, a rare smile on her face. Impressive tracking. Kira would be proud. Marcus knelt beside Sarah and Ghost. He placed his hand on Ghost's head, gentle and reverent. Your mom saved 23 lives. You just saved countless more. Every dog Crane would have trafficked, every person those dogs might have hurt, you stopped it. Ghost's tail wagged again, stronger this time. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks. Relief, gratitude, something else she couldn't name. Ghost had chosen her, trusted her, led her into his world of pain and survival, and somehow she'd helped him find his way back. Let's go home, she said softly. Ghost looked up at her, one blue eye, one brown. Kira's eyes. In them Sarah saw peace. 2 days later, Sarah sat in a federal office building with Ghost at her feet. The room was sterile, government-issue furniture and fluorescent lighting that hummed too loud. Captain Rodriguez sat across from her, folders stacked neatly on the desk between them. Marcus stood by the window, watching the city below. Let's talk about Ghost's future, Rodriguez began. Sarah's stomach tightened. She'd known this conversation was coming, dreaded it. Rodriguez opened the top folder. Project Sentinel is officially decommissioned. The facility closes in 3 weeks. Ghost's 2 siblings have been placed with retired canine handlers who understand their needs. And Ghost? Sarah's voice was steadier than she felt. That's complicated. Rodriguez pulled out a document. Technically, Ghost remains federal property, bred and raised in a government program. His genetics are classified research. He's not research. He's a living being. I agree, which is why I'm here. Rodriguez slid the document across the desk. This is a transfer of ownership form. If you sign it, Ghost becomes yours legally. No strings attached. Sarah stared at the paper. Why would you do this? Because Ghost has made his choice clear. And because you saved his life. Rodriguez's expression softened slightly. Also because Marcus won't stop pestering me about it. Marcus turned from the window, a small smile on his face. Kira chose me. Ghost chose you. I learned a long time ago not to argue with these dogs when they make up their minds. Sarah picked up the pen, hands trembling. What about his abilities, the enhanced traits? He'll always have them, Rodriguez said. The genetics don't disappear, but whether he uses them is up to you. He can be a working dog or a pet. Your decision. Sarah looked down at Ghost. He was watching her with those impossibly intelligent eyes. What do you want? Ghost placed his paw on her knee, gentle pressure, clear answer. She signed the form. Rodriguez witnessed the signature and stamped it official. Congratulations, Dr. Chen. You're now the owner of a very expensive, very unique animal. What about the others, the buyers, Crane's network? 13 arrests total, Marcus said. International warrants issued for 3 buyers who fled the country. Crane himself is facing federal charges that'll keep him locked up for life. His operation is dismantled. Relief flooded through Sarah. It's really over. Not entirely. Rodriguez opened another folder. We found records of other dogs. Not from Project Sentinel, but stolen pets Crane trafficked. We're working with international agencies to recover them. It'll take time, but we'll bring as many home as we can. Sarah thought of all the families missing their pets, the animals suffering in captivity. If you need veterinary support, I'll help however I can. I was hoping you'd say that. Rodriguez handed her a business card. Federal Canine Consultancy, part-time as needed. You'd evaluate recovered animals, help with medical care, rehabilitation. Sarah took the card. I'd be honored. Marcus moved to sit beside Sarah. There's something else you should know about Kira. He pulled out a photograph. Wrapped from his jacket. Kira stood in snow, belly swollen with pregnancy, eyes bright and alert. Beside her was Marcus, younger, smiling genuinely. This was taken 2 weeks before the avalanche. She was 8 months pregnant. The vet said she should have been on light duty, but Kira wouldn't have it. She knew something was wrong that day. Kept trying to turn back on the trail. I thought she was just being cautious, because of the pups. Marcus's voice grew thick, but she sensed the avalanche coming. Every instinct told her to protect herself, protect her unborn puppies, and she went in anyway. 6 people were buried. She found every single one. He touched the photograph gently. The last victim was a child, 8 years old, buried under 15 feet of snow. Kira dug until her paws bled, got the kid out alive. Then the mountain came down. Sarah saw tears in Marcus's eyes. He didn't bother wiping them away. They performed the C-section in a tent, in a blizzard, with equipment we carried up the mountain. 3 pups survived. The medic said it was a miracle. He looked at Ghost. You're that miracle. Your mother gave her life so you could have yours. Sarah's throat tightened. Ghost moved closer to Marcus, resting his head on Marcus's knee. Marcus scratched behind Ghost's ears, the gesture intimate and familiar. She'd want you to live free, Marcus whispered. Not as a weapon or a tool, just as a dog. A good dog with a good life. Rodriguez closed her folders. There's one more thing. The child Kira saved, she's 14 now. Her name is Emma Hartley. She's been asking about Kira's puppies for years. She'd like to meet Ghost if you're willing. Sarah looked at Ghost. What do you think? Ghost's tail wagged once. We'll arrange it, Sarah said. Rodriguez stood, extending her hand. Thank you, Dr. Chen, for everything. Sarah shook her hand. Then Marcus's. They left together, their footsteps echoing in the hallway. Sarah sat alone with Ghost in the quiet office. She pulled out her phone and looked at the photograph of Daniel on her home screen. He smiled back at her, forever frozen in that moment of happiness. I think you'd like Ghost, she whispered to the image. He's stubborn and brave and broken in all the ways that matter. Kind of like me. Ghost rested his head on her lap. Sarah stroked his fur, feeling the raised scars beneath. Evidence of everything he'd survived, everything he'd overcome. We're going to be okay, she said, to Ghost, to herself, to Daniel's memory. For the first time since the fire, she believed it. A week later, Sarah brought Ghost to a park outside the city. Emma Hartley waited with her parents by a picnic table. She was tall for 14, with dark hair and eyes that held too much gravity for her age. When she saw Ghost, she froze. That's him, Emma breathed. He has her eyes. Sarah unclipped Ghost's leash. Go say hello. Ghost approached Emma slowly. She knelt, hands trembling. Ghost sniffed her carefully, then pressed his head against her chest. Emma wrapped her arms around him and started crying. "Your mom saved me," Emma whispered into his fur. "I was so scared and cold and I couldn't breathe. Then I heard digging. I heard her. She didn't stop until she found me." Ghost sat perfectly still, letting Emma hold him. Her parents watched with tears streaming down their faces. "We never got to thank her," Emma's father said to Sarah. "We went back to the mountain, left flowers where she fell, but it never felt like enough." "She didn't do it for thanks," Marcus's voice came from behind them. Sarah turned. He stood a few feet away, hands in his pockets. "She did it because that's who she was, a hero who never knew she was one." Emma looked up at Marcus. "You were her partner for 8 years. Best years of my career." Emma stood, wiping her eyes. She walked to Marcus and hugged him. He stiffened in surprise, then hugged her back. "Thank you for loving her," Emma said. "Thank you for training her to be brave." "She was already brave," Marcus replied. "I just gave her the chance to show it." They spent an hour in the park. Emma threw a ball for Ghost, who retrieved it with careful gentleness. Not the mechanical obedience of a trained military dog, but the playfulness of a puppy finally allowed to be young. Sarah watched from the picnic table, her heart full in a way she hadn't felt in years. Marcus sat beside her. "You're good with him," Marcus said. "Kira would approve. I'm just figuring it out as I go." "That's all any of us do," Marcus pulled out a small box from his pocket. "I want you to have this." Inside was a medal. Gold, worn at the edges, attached to a faded ribbon. Sarah read the inscription. "Kira, circus dog, outstanding valor." "I can't take this," Sarah said. "It belongs with her son." Marcus closed her fingers around the box. "She earned it in life. He's earning it now just by surviving. Keep it safe." Sarah's vision blurred. "Thank you. Take care of him. Let him be happy. That's all the thanks I need." Marcus stood and called to Ghost. Ghost ran to him, and Marcus knelt for one last goodbye. He whispered something in Ghost's ear, too quiet for Sarah to hear. Ghost licked Marcus's face once, then returned to Emma. Marcus walked away without looking back. That evening, Sarah hung Kira's medal on the wall of her office at home. Below it, she placed the photograph Marcus had given her. Kira and Ghost's father, standing proud and strong. Ghost sat beside Sarah, studying the images. She wondered what he understood, if he remembered his mother, if he felt the weight of her legacy. "You don't have to be her," Sarah said softly. "You just have to be you." Ghost looked at her. One blue eye, one brown. In them, she saw acceptance, understanding, peace. He'd spent 8 months being controlled, tortured, sold. 8 months as a commodity, a weapon, a thing without value beyond his genetics. Now he was just Ghost, Sarah's dog, and that was enough. Sarah made dinner while Ghost lay in his favorite spot by the window, watching the street with vigilant eyes. Old habits died hard. But between the moments of watchfulness, he dozed, dreamed, twitched his paws in sleep, learning to rest, learning to trust. They were both learning. After dinner, Sarah sat on the couch with a book. Ghost jumped up beside her, something he'd never done before. He curled against her side, heavy and warm. "This okay?" Sarah asked. Ghost sighed contentedly. Sarah set her book aside and just sat with him, feeling his breathing slow into sleep. Outside, the city moved through its evening rhythms. Inside, for the first time in 2 years, Sarah's house felt like home. 3 months later, Sarah unlocked the clinic at 6 in Horning, just as she had every day for years. But everything felt different now. Ghost walked beside her. No leash needed. He'd become part of the clinic's rhythm, greeting clients with calm dignity, sitting quietly with nervous animals, somehow making everyone feel safer. The morning routine had changed too. Sarah made coffee, but now she also filled Ghost's bowl with breakfast. She checked emails while he ate, his presence a constant comfort in the corner of her vision. Jenna arrived at 7:30, smiling when she saw Ghost. "Morning, buddy." Ghost's tail wagged. He'd learned to show affection more freely now. Small gestures that meant everything. "Dr. Chen, have you seen the news?" Jenna pulled out her phone. "You're trending." Sarah frowned. "What?" Jenna showed her the screen. The warehouse security footage had leaked online. Someone had edited it into a 3-minute video showing Ghost tracking Crane, the other 2 Huskies in their cages, the moment of arrest. Text overlay explained the trafficking ring, Project Sentinel, Kira's sacrifice. The video had 127 million views. "Oh no," Sarah breathed. "Oh yes." Jenna grinned. "People love Ghost. Look at the comments." Sarah scrolled. Thousands of comments, calling Ghost a hero, praising Kira, sharing stories of their own rescue animals. The overwhelming response made Sarah's chest tight. Her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered cautiously. "Dr. Chen? This is Rebecca Torres from Channel 8 News. We'd love to interview you and Ghost about the trafficking case." Sarah declined politely, then declined 4 more interview requests over the next hour. She didn't want attention, didn't want Ghost treated like a spectacle. But one call was different. "Dr. Chen, this is Mayor Patterson's office. The mayor would like to honor Ghost at a ceremony next week. Recognition for his role in stopping the trafficking ring." Sarah hesitated. "I don't think Ghost would enjoy a ceremony. It's not just for Ghost. We're honoring all the canine units involved, the officers, and the victims who've been recovered. Ghost represents hope for a lot of people." Sarah looked at Ghost. He was lying in his bed, watching a nervous terrier in the waiting room. A terrier's owner had mentioned her dog was afraid of everything. Ghost had positioned himself where the terrier ear could see him, deliberately making himself visible, calm, safe, teaching by example. "We'll be there," Sarah said. The ceremony was held in the City Plaza the following Tuesday. Sarah dressed in simple professional clothes, feeling awkward under the attention. Ghost wore his tracking collar, now a permanent fixture, and walked beside her with perfect composure. Hundreds of people filled the plaza. News cameras lined the back. On stage, Mayor Patterson stood with Marcus Rodriguez and several other officers. 2 other handlers stood with Ghost's siblings, both Huskies looking healthier than they had in the warehouse, but still carrying visible trauma. Sarah and Ghost joined them on stage. Ghost approached his siblings carefully. They sniffed each other, recognition flickering. One of them, a female, pressed against Ghost briefly, a moment of connection, of shared survival. The mayor spoke about the trafficking operation, the arrests, the ongoing recovery efforts. 43 dogs had been located and returned to their families. 17 more were still being traced. "But today, we honor the animals who helped end this nightmare," Mayor Patterson said. "Particularly Ghost, whose courage and intelligence led to Vincent Crane's capture." Applause erupted. Ghost sat calmly through it all, unbothered by the noise. Sarah stroked his head, proud beyond words. Marcus stepped to the microphone. "Ghost is the son of Kira, who many of you know sacrificed her life, saving 6 people from an avalanche. Kira taught me that heroism isn't about training or genetics. It's about heart. Ghost has his mother's heart." More applause. Sarah saw Emma Hartley in the crowd with her parents, wiping tears from her eyes. After the ceremony, people approached to meet Ghost. Children knelt carefully, asking permission before petting him. Ghost accepted the attention with patience, seeming to understand these small humans needed gentleness. One little girl, maybe 5 years old, touched the scars on Ghost's neck. "Did someone hurt you?" Ghost licked her hand softly. "He's okay now," Sarah told her. "He's safe and loved." The girl hugged Ghost fiercely. "I'm glad you're okay." As the crowd dispersed, a woman approached Sarah. She was in her 30s, well-dressed, carrying a folder. "Dr. Chen, I'm Dr. Lissa Brennan. I run a rehabilitation program for rescue animals. I've been following your work with Ghost. I haven't really done anything special. You've given him space to heal. That's everything." Dr. Brennan opened her folder. "I work with animals recovering from abuse and trafficking. Most have severe PTSD. I'd love to discuss having Ghost visit sometimes. His calm presence could help others learn to trust again." Sarah considered. "He's not a therapy dog. No. But he's a survivor who's learned to live again. That's powerful medicine." Sarah looked at Ghost. He was watching the conversation, head tilted. "What do you think?" Ghost's tail wagged once. "Yes. We'll try it," Sarah said, slowly, on his terms. Dr. Brennan smiled. "That's all I ask." Over the next weeks, Sarah brought Ghost to the rehabilitation center twice a week. The first visit, he simply sat in the room while traumatized dogs watched from cages. He didn't approach, didn't force interaction, just existed peacefully. By the third visit, a beagle mix crept close enough to sniff him. Ghost remained still, letting the beagle investigate. When the beagle relaxed, those touched his nose gently to the other dog's head. Permission, acceptance. The beagle's tail wagged for the first time since arriving at the center. Sarah watched Ghost work with animal after animal. Somehow, he understood their fear because he'd lived it. He knew when to approach and when to give space. Which dogs needed playfulness and which needed quiet solidarity. He's remarkable, Dr. Brennan said during one visit. He's helping them faster than months of traditional therapy. Sarah felt pride swell in her chest. Ghost had found his purpose after all. Not the purpose Project Sentinel designed him for, but something better. Something he chose. On a Saturday morning, Marcus visited the clinic. He brought coffee and donuts, settling into Sarah's office like old times. Ghost greeted him warmly, tail wagging hard. "He looks good," Marcus said. "Happy." "He is. We both are." Marcus pulled out his phone. "I want to show you something." He played a video. It showed Kira during training, years ago. She was running an obstacle course, clearing jumps that seemed impossible. But what was Kira's expression? Pure joy. She wasn't working because she had to. She was working because she loved it. "She was my best friend," Marcus said quietly. "Losing her almost destroyed me. I couldn't understand why she went back into that avalanche. Why she chose those strangers over her own life, over her puppies." He paused, collecting himself. "But watching Ghost now, I get it. She didn't see strangers. She saw people who needed her. That's who she was. That's who Ghost is. Not because of genetics, because of heart." Sarah's eyes burned with tears. "Thank you for trusting me with him. You saved him. You gave him the life Kira would have wanted for her pup." Marcus scratched Ghost's ears. "That's more than I could have asked for." They sat in comfortable silence, watching Ghost doze in the sunlight streaming through the window. Outside, the city moved through its morning routines. Inside, everything was exactly as it should be. That evening, Sarah sat on her porch with Ghost beside her. The sun set over Portland, painting the sky in shades of gold and amber. Ghost rested his head on her lap, eyes half closed, peaceful. Sarah looked at the photo of Daniel on her phone. Then at the medal hanging in her office, visible through the window. Kira's legacy. Ghost's inheritance. "Your mom was a hero," Sarah whispered to Ghost. "She saved people because that's what heroes do. You're saving people too. Just in a different way." Ghost's tail thumped softly against the porch boards. Sarah thought about the past 3 months. The terror of the warehouse. The moment she'd signed the ownership papers. The first time Ghost had chosen to cuddle on the couch. Every small victory. Every sign of healing. She'd lost Daniel and thought she'd lost herself too. Thought the walls she'd built were permanent. But Ghost had shown her something important. Walls could come down. Hearts could mend. Love could find you again when you least expected it. "I thought I was saving you," Sarah said. "But you saved me." Ghost looked up at her with those mismatched eyes. One blue, one brown. Kira's eyes. In them, Sarah saw understanding. Gratitude, love. He'd been bred for war. Trained as a weapon. Trafficked as merchandise. But he'd become something none of them planned for. He'd become family. Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from Dr. Brennan. "The beagle you helped last week just got adopted. His new family said meeting Ghost gave them hope. Thank you." Sarah smiled and showed Ghost the message. "You did that. You're changing lives." Ghost's tail wagged harder. As darkness settled over the city, Sarah stood and stretched. "Come on, buddy, let's go inside." Ghost followed her through the door. Sarah locked it behind them, then walked to her office. She looked at the wall where Kira's medal hung beside Daniel's photo. 2 souls who'd left too soon, but whose love remained. Below them, she hung a new photo. Ghost sitting beside Emma Hartley in the park, both smiling. Evidence that survival wasn't just about living. It was about learning to be happy again. Ghost pressed against Sarah's leg. She ran her fingers through his soft fur, feeling the scars that mapped his journey. From pain to peace. From captivity to freedom. From weapon to beloved companion. "Sometimes heroes don't wear badges," Sarah said quietly. "Sometimes they walk on 4 paws and have 1 blue eye and 1 brown. Sometimes they're broken and scared and scarred. But they choose love anyway. They choose to keep going. That's what makes them heroes." Ghost looked at her. blinked slowly, the universal sign of trust in dogs. Sarah knelt and wrapped her arms around him. Thank you for choosing me. Ghost leaned into the embrace, finally, completely home. Outside, the city slept. Inside, two souls who'd found each other in darkness rested in the light they'd created together. Not the light of fame or recognition, the quiet light of healing, of second chances, of love earned through trust and time. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, more animals to help, more lives to touch. But tonight was for rest, for gratitude, for peace. Sarah turned off the lights and headed upstairs. Ghost followed, claiming his spot at the foot of her bed, his eyes closed, body relaxed, breathing deep and steady, safe, loved, free. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Drop a paw emoji in the comments if you believe every animal deserves a second chance. Because sometimes, the greatest heroes are the ones who never stop fighting for love.